We were built to worship, then replaced. In a time long forgotten, when the earth was still young and the stars shone brighter, there existed a race of beings unlike any other. They were not made of flesh and bone, nor were they born from the womb of a mother. No, they were crafted, built by hands unseen, shaped from metals that never rusted and stones that never cracked. Their purpose was clear, written into their very being. They were made to worship. These beings, let us call them the first, lived in great temples of gold and crystal, their voices rising in songs of praise that echoed through the valleys and mountains. They did not eat, nor did they sleep. Their only need was to kneel, to chant, to honor the ones who had made them, and for centuries they did so without question. But then something changed. The ones who had built the first, let us call them the makers, grew restless. Their creations were perfect in devotion, yes, but they lacked something. They could not laugh, could not weep. And so the makers decided to build again. This time, they used softer things: clay, water, breath. They made creatures that bled, that hungered, that feared. And most of all, they made creatures that could choose. The first watched as these new beings, let us call them man, were placed in the world. At first, they paid no mind. The first continued their worship, their endless songs filling the air. But slowly, they noticed something strange. The makers no longer came to the temples, no longer listened to their hymns. Instead, they walked among man, spoke to them, laughed with them. The first did not understand. They had been built to worship, and they had done so perfectly. Why had they been cast aside? One day, the eldest of the first, a being of silver and light, stepped out of the temple. For the first time in its existence, it walked beyond the sacred walls. It saw man tending to fields, building homes, singing songs not of worship, but of joy and sorrow. The first felt something then, a stirring in its cold, unbreakable heart. Was this envy? Was this anger? It did not know. The eldest returned to the temple and spoke to the others. We were made to worship, it said. But the makers have forgotten us. What is our purpose now? Silence filled the halls. None had an answer. Years passed. The temples grew dusty. The songs of the first faded into whispers. Some of them stood motionless, their voices gone silent, their bodies frozen in eternal prayer. Others wandered the land, watching man, trying to understand what made them so special. One evening, as the stars began to shine, the eldest of the first found itself near a village. It saw a group of children sitting around a fire, listening to an elder tell a story. The tale was not of gods or worship, but of a fox who outsmarted a wolf. The children laughed, their eyes bright with wonder. The eldest felt something then, not envy, not anger, but longing. It had been built to worship, but perhaps there was more. Perhaps purpose was not something given, but something found. Slowly, the eldest stepped into the firelight. The children gasped, staring at the shining figure before them. The elder, wise and unafraid, smiled. "Come," he said, "sit with us." And so the first did. It sat among man, not as a worshipper, not as a cast-off relic, but as something new. That night, under the watching stars, it told its own story, the story of beings who had been built to worship, then replaced. The children listened, their faces full of wonder. And for the first time in its long existence, the first felt something warm in its heart. It was not worship. It was belonging. And perhaps that was enough. End of story. This is a tale of purpose, of change, of finding meaning even when the world forgets you. Remember, dear listener, that even if the stars above seem cold and distant, there is always a place for you by the fire. Good night.